Today's show, we take you to the Learn Down Under with Tim, a Novus franchisee. He's been a franchisee for a very long time. He's been Autoglass for a long time. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and stay tuned.
Yo, live from the cutout zone. It's Ghost Set Killer, master certified, verified, glass tested and qualified. Welcome to Put 'em on the glass, no flippers, no hacking. Ghost Set Killer with the blade and the tape. Frog it out clean, process style, 80s calibration locked.
Good morning, everyone. Afternoon, evening, whatever you're listening. This is James, the Ghost Set Killer, and I'm with Put 'em on the Glass podcast. Our guest today is in the future, just like our Korean guest, and then the sheriff a while ago, like a long time ago, was the sheriff on the other side of the world from me. Who is my guest today?
My name's Tim Rowe. I'm from Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia. I've been self-employed in the same business since 1990, and I've been grinding away, chipping away, having a crack for the last 34, 35 odd years, and glad to be on the show. Thanks, James.
Oh my goodness. So 1990, you started your own business. Did you just start it out of nowhere, or did you have training? How did that come about? I mean, 1990 was a little while ago.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Yeah, it's an interesting story. So, I went through to year 12, we call it in Australia, at school. I was probably a little bit better than average student. I left school and my parents really wanted me to go to university. I didn't really want to go to university, but I went because my parents wanted me to. And I studied computer science and economics. Anyway, I really didn't like the university thing. And I'd always had lots of jobs. I'd had jobs since I was 12 years old. You know, I'd been a paper boy and I'd worked as a trolley boy, and I'd worked in bottle shops and Chinese restaurants and cleaning and all sorts of things, because I always just want to be out there earning a quid and making a living. I had other family members in business that sort of inspired me to go on the path of being self-employed. So as a 18 or 19-year-old, you don't have too many choices of businesses that you can go into. So I started looking around for businesses, much to the dismay of my mother in a lot of ways. And at that age, you don't have many things. You know, you're looking at milk runs and bread runs, you know, delivering bread, delivering milk, those types of businesses. But one thing that came up was the Novus windscreen repair franchise at the time it was called, and it was a fairly new sort of business. You know, chip repairs were pretty new back in 1990. It was something a little bit different, a bit of a niche market. I was fortunate enough that I had a friend of the family who had another Novus franchise close by. He had the Newcastle one, and I found that close by one, a smaller area called Port Stephens, was for sale. So I sold my car, and my mum went guarantor on a loan for me. It was about a $20,000 investment to start with, and I went off into the world to make my fortune. And I guess what I anticipated was that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I was going to buy and sell businesses. You know, I would go into this business, and within 3 or 4 years, I'd be making $1,000 a week, which was a lot of money at the time. And then I'd sell it for a profit, and then I'd move into the next business. And things didn't really happen as quickly as I would have expected. It was a lot more of a journey. It took a long time before I started to make that sort of profit. That's how I started into it.
Okay, with that profit, I know you were looking to turn the business. You and I talk quite a bit on Facebook, and you know, we're part of the same groups and everything. Did you fall in love with the industry? Because I know that's what I did. Like, I wasn't planning on doing this forever. I got into it after making baskets, and then I just kind of fell in love with it. But I'm not an owner. You're an owner. You're under different stresses than I was as a technician. So did you fall in love with it, or did you just stick it out?
Well, bit of both, actually. You know, I loved it and hated it. And I guess over the years that I've been in business, I've been through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of roller coasters, particularly in the early years, not so much now. But in the early years, there was this love-hate relationship where I can actually remember in the first few years going to work, going, I fucking hate this job. And I can't wait to get rid of this, you know, like whatever. But I stuck it out. A lot of the reason because I had to and because I wanted to and because I wanted to have that grit. I stuck it out, and I guess some of the turning points were I had other. I started to employ other people who had different skill sets and who could teach me things that made the job a lot easier. And then over time, we started off just doing basically mostly chip repairs, a few windscreens, and I was in a little Ford Escort panel van. Was my first vehicle. The windscreens you could put in were about this high, and a couple of toolboxes, one of the first mobile phones of the day, and I'd go out and grind away and make a living. And then I had one particular guy, Rod, that came to work for me. He had a lot of experience in the industry. He started to teach me a lot about replacement and what we needed to do. So helped me take that to the next level. And then, again, we're talking really early days here. We're talking back in the early 1990s. Then moving forward to 2000 odd, I had another guy come and work for me, who brought a lot of skills to the business, and there was just the two of us. And I can remember saying to him, if he's listening to this podcast, he'd be having a laugh, because I remember saying, I never want to be any bigger than this, Steve-O. Just you and me, we'll just keep going forever, but lots changed since then, that's for sure.
So let me ask you a question. As a business owner, you came into this, you start employing employees, and you're kind of you're loving it, you're hating it, but when you brought on employees, did that take a different mindset of this has to go now because I have other families than just myself depending on me? Is that something that it kept your drive alive?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've always taken pride in really taking care of my employees and making them family, and also taking pride in the fact that I'm running a business that's providing an income for not just the staff but for their families as well,
and being part of the community.
And be part of the community.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just hit my head, and you've listened to the show enough. That's how it works.
Keep going, throw it at me.
Yeah. All right. So we do have a connection because you started a Novus franchise, and I work for the corporate side. Even though you own your business, it's a franchise, correct? Or are you 100%, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we're basically independent operators. We're under a corporate structure, I guess, in a way. But yeah, as a Novus franchisee, we're basically independent operators. We don't really get too many directives on what we have to do, or maybe some on what we should do. But we basically get to run our own race, which is.
So over here in the United States, we offer Novus franchise. We offer Novus franchises. This is the Fix Network, who I currently am employed with as a national trainer. What would be the sales pitch for someone to buy a Novus franchise, in your opinion?
From my experience, I probably never would have grown the size of the business, given the start that I had, with no experience. I never would have grown the size of the business that I did without being part of a network. So what I've gained out of it is training, support, which has been good and bad at times. We've had some horrible experiences in our past with different management that we've had above us, but there's been some that's been really good as well. I guess what I've gained mostly out of is, and I used to say in the early days, was just going to the national conferences and mixing with people that do exactly the same thing that I do, that aren't in competition with me, that are happy to share ideas, and form lifelong relationships with these people. And this is all back in the days before we had Facebook, before we had social media, and so you could gain so much knowledge by talking to other people, as I said, that are doing exactly the same thing as you but aren't in competition with you.
Yeah, that network of support, to, like you said, they're not direct competition with you, but you can go out and you can get the ideas and bounce ideas off each other, because you said you had a good bit of freedom to do what you wanted to do and make the business as great as you wanted to make it. So if you're listening out there and you're on the fence whether to open your own or not, looking into a Novus franchise or a franchise period might be the way to go. You get the ownership, you have the support, you have the training, you have the networking. So that ends my little sales pitch there. Let's get back to you. So what does a
Yeah.
normal day, what does a normal day look like to you, as far as the amount of work you do? Is it mainly insurance? Is it mainly cash pay? What does a normal day look like for you?
So we're flipping forward 25, 30 years now
Yeah.
from, from what we've just been talking about. So, so currently I run, we have 5 Autoglass vans, 3 ADAS specialists, a residential glass specialist vehicle, and 2 fixed locations. So,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
impressive.
and it's grown. And again, for the first 20 years, it grew fairly slowly, periodically. In the last 5 years in particular, since the COVID scam, as I like to call it, where we thought everything was going to burn into dust, it's actually flourished. In the last 5 years, it's grown a huge amount, just kept sort of doubling every year. So a typical day for me now, to get back to your question, I've been on the tools pretty much all the way through, full time for a long time, part time for a while. Moving into, I guess, as the business grew, I want to make sure I could understand everything that we did in the business to a certain degree, but I would bring other people in to take that to the next level. And so things like, we start off with chip repairs, we start off with plain old windscreens, rubber fits, butyl kits. I can remember being on the side of the road in the early days, going up the highway, no vacuum cleaner, no cordless tools, hot summer's day, liquid butyl kit with shattered glass and a dustpan and brush. That's where I come from. Moving forward through all those years, there's a lot of stuff in between, obviously. Actually, we'll get to the typical day later. I'll talk about the journey.
Let's talk about the journey, because you just reminded me, like my friend's dad did Autoglass here locally, and I knew nothing about it. Okay, it didn't inspire me to go. I just was a remembrance. They would go over on Friday nights and work on their race cars. They did dirt track racing, the cars that. And so we would go over there and they would give us balls of butyl to throw at each other. And that's the only thing I remember. And I still can, to this day, cannot stand butyl tape. Like, I will go out of my way to get a new clip instead of put a piece of butyl under there. I will do whatever it takes to not have butyl anywhere near my van. I cannot stand that stuff. But go ahead. Let's talk about the journey.
Yeah. So back in the days, those were the early jobs. We were the first port of call from 300 kilometres up down the highway, and back in 1990 we used to have a lot of cars with tempered windscreens on the road. In Australia we had tempered windscreens in cars up to about 1979 or 1980. So, in 1990 there was still a lot of those cars on the road. So yeah, trip up the highway, side of the road, dustpan and brush, liquid sticky butyl with smashed glass all through it, taping up the heater vents, trying not to let the glass go down there. That was the real early days. As we moved into the 2000s, I've been doing it 10, 15 years now, and started to get a little bit bored with it. It was all just chip repairs and windscreens and rubbers and a bit of urethane and whatever. And then rain sensors came along, and I was like, wow, we got something new. Like that really sparked me. So got rain sensors, we've got something else to worry about and to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved through that. There was another 10 years gap between there and ADAS coming in. But in that 10-year gap, I started to take on a lot of other services as well, because I wanted to diversify and make sure we were busy all the time and that we had different streams of revenue. So in that 10-year period, I started to do, we had people walking in all the time, can you replace the window in my house? And I'm like, well, never had any experience in replacing a window in a house, but we'll work it out.
We'll figure it out.
Can you cut me this piece of glass? Well, I've never cut a bit of glass, but let's do it. So I taught myself how to cut glass, and started into, and made sure, that we had different revenue streams, and that we were in a small area at the time, the Port Stephens area. And we didn't have many other suppliers. So, my regular customers would come to me and I would want to service them. and also, keep my staff employed and keep the profits coming in. And it was a grind at the time. It really was. It was, you were struggling to make ends meet, so you had to do whatever you could to bring the dollars in the door and pay the bills. And that early 2000s was a tough time in the business. And my wife joined me in the business in about 2012, I guess, Lisa, and that was a really big thing to have somebody else come in and sort out that huge big pile of paperwork that was sitting on the desk, take over all that admin stuff. And then, we started to do window tint as well, automotive and also architectural window tint, which I've found's been a really good revenue stream as well. And then, around about, fast forward and around to the COVID scam again. So, COVID came along. I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? It's going to the business is going to shut down. No one's going to want anything done. So I got, I'd done a bit of business mentoring over the time and talked to a few guys, and they're like, gave me some tips and like, righto, how do we handle this? And the first thing I did was went to my staff and said, look, no one's going to lose their job. We've got to all get together and go, righto, how do we move forward? How are we going to, what other revenue streams can we bring in to keep everybody employed? Again, no one's going to lose their job. Worst case scenario, we might have to cut back hours. So that sort of settled everybody down a little bit. And then, we started to do things like, okay, we'll make sneeze guards.
Oh yeah, yes, we did. The company I work for did too, because we took a 2-week. My boss shut down for 2 weeks because no one knew anything about COVID. But he did the same thing that you did, because I worked for a local independent at the time. Was like, no one's losing their jobs. We might have to cut hours, but we will get through this. And if you have any ideas on how to, because he's real big in the new construction business of windows, like he builds all the frames and everything for commercial buildings. Yeah. And does all the glass areas. Like, if you have any kind of ideas on how we can keep moving the doors open, we're going to try to figure out a way to make you essential workers. Sneeze guards and bank guards, like all those things. Like, yes, that was huge for us too. That's a good move.
Yeah, it was a good move. And we didn't sell that many of them, but the first Facebook post I put up on a sneeze guard, was something with the caption, something along the lines of, no, I can't think of it now. That's all right. But I got 10,000 impressions on this sneeze guard that was sitting on my front desk in my office. But we sort of found, and because I diversified the business a bit, just out of the autos really slowed down during that period. But the household work picked up because and it's not because there was more work of broken windows in houses or window tint in houses. It was just because people were home and they were able to get stuff done. Mm-hmm. And we had a record amount of pet doors. We were installing pet doors in houses during COVID because the people were home and they didn't want to get up and let the dog in and out. And then, and things like window tint, showers, and they were renovating bathrooms. So we'd do shower screens in bathrooms and things. So that really sort of kicked us on. So it was, a really good foundation to have really diversified the business pre 2020. To get through that period.
Yeah, it was a rough period for everybody. Because you're right, no one knew. We didn't know. We were just like, I've been doing this for the last 20 years, and now I'm going to lose my job. Am I? You know what I mean? Like, is this something that's going to take hold forever? Is everybody going to start working from home? But you're right, the home business picked up for us too. We started doing the offering the switch out of windows, either window tint or the window with the gas in the center, to make sure it doesn't let solar rays through to stain or dye their carpets, because a lot of homeowners, the UV rays would come in and dye, the carpet's like, what's a different color in this location? Why? It's because, the window, the sun rays are. So I got to experience a lot of that too, because I got to go do a lot of that with the residential installers. Yeah. I got to go do a lot of that. So I got to learn that side of the business more, because I knew the commercial side, knew the auto side, but I didn't really do much in residential. Well, putting in showers and replacing residential windows, which, if you guys don't know, it's extremely easy. Like, you think you think commercial glazing's easy? Yeah. Residential is way easier.
Yeah, most of it really is. Yeah, you still get your challenges, of course, and the big,
Yeah. Yeah. A complete old, what is that, Pella window that's got the all wood sash that is like you can't take it apart because it's, bonded. And it's like, well,
yeah,
you just have to replace the whole window. Those are rough conversations to have. And we were always very professional. So they didn't bother us to go to customers' houses because our vans were always clean. Our uniforms were always clean. We always had booties to put on to go inside someone's house and everything. So that wasn't a struggle for us. And I know some people in the industry that would be a struggle for having to go to somebody's house because they're just not quite caught up with the organization and the way that you need to present yourself from an auto to working on someone's house. It's different.
yeah,
It really is.
yeah. It is. It is a lot different. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I guess diversifying was really good, not just for myself to keep me interested and keep my mind active, but also for my staff members too, because it was, the guys love to be doing something different, like they're doing auto glass all day, one day, next day they're doing a residential glass, a shower screen, and some window tins. It just mixes it up for them and increases their skills. And I want my people to be successful as well and have a really good skill set and be, have a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not profitable. It's to be well off.
Yes, yeah. To be able to take care of themselves because they've acquired the skills to make sure that they're able to put food on their table.
Yeah, exactly right.
To struggle.
Yeah, I want them to be able to afford houses, and I want them to be able to afford cars, and send their kids to good schools and whatever it might be in their particular life. So I've always prided myself. I've always taken a lot of pride in paying my staff well above what anybody else pays. Which takes a bit of planning because obviously you've got to have a lot of work, you've got to charge the right amount for it. That's been really key to me. Keeping staff for over long periods is to give them pay rises to make sure they're paid really, really well, so that they can be successful in life too.
What's your retention rate like? Like, do you keep employees for 10, 15, 20 years? Is that what it's looking like, or are they about 5 years?
So over the period, I've had two that I've had for maybe 17, 18 years, another who are both auto glaziers, had a customer service representative that was with me for over 10 years. I've done really well with that.
It sounds like it, because a lot of turnover happens, like in our industry. Like, it was an oddity that I had only been with a couple shops by the time that I had reached my place I am now, and I was at the one shop for 17 years. So it was like everybody's like it was kind of odd for me to be in one place, and not move a bunch of. So the fact that you're able to say that 17, 18 years for an Autoglass guy is like, that's awesome. That says something for the way you run your business. So that's awesome. Congratulations on that one. That's definitely something to be proud of, because most people have to jump around to make that dollar, and I know I did in the early years. That's why I've worked for a couple places, not just one whole place the whole time, was because it's like, oh, you'll give me $1 more on the hour. Okay. So then actually that's what caused me to leave where I was at and go to SafeLight for 2 years, and then realized that I didn't want to be part of that. So then I went back to where I was at and took the pay cut back, because it just wasn't, it wasn't a structure I enjoyed working in. So I went back to a little bit less money, but there comes a time where you got to prioritize if it's money or if you want an actual way of doing things differently. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes those experiences can be really, really good for your life too, because you think the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, and then you actually make that change, and then you realize it's not, and then you go back and you're so much happier.
100%. Not to mean to cut you off there, when I left and I was at the new place for about a month, and I realized that this wasn't for me, but I knew I couldn't, I knew, to be fair to them and to be fair to my family and everything, I wrote an email a month for 2 years to my previous boss, asking him, whenever you need, let me know. And so basically, finally, he emailed me back and was like, well, we have someone who's changing positions, because Richardson people go, they stay there, they don't leave. And he was changing positions. He was going into the fabricating department to start making frames, fabricating the frames and doing all the architectural stuff. And so he was like, you want to come back? So I went back, And I did an interview, and then I gave, the place I was working, which, safely, I gave them like, it was like 3 or 4 weeks notice, you know what I mean, to make sure that I didn't put them. And then just like when I came from Richardson to fix, I gave Richardson 6 weeks notice because I didn't want to, I want to make sure I got somebody in there, got them trained. Because I didn't want to leave anybody hanging and be like, oh, that guy, and burn a bridge and be like, that guy sucks.
Right. Exact words I was going to say. You don't want to, never want to burn a bridge.
Well, no, because you never know where your next meal may come from. What may dry up where. But yeah, it was like an email month, man, because I was like, the grass is definitely not greener. It is like it's different, and it's successful for a lot of people. Because I know a good friend of mine who made the same move from a independent to them, and now he's real high up in the company. He's real big on there, like he's a part of all the boards, and like he's grown into that company and been very successful. But it just wasn't the path that I wanted to take myself personally.
Yeah, so moving through the journey again. That was we talked about that period from 2000 to 2000 to 2010, 15. We took on those extra services, which helped us get through COVID, which was 20. But in 15 we started to see ADAS come in. And I can remember being quite hesitant about it at the time, and didn't know anything about ADAS. And actually, my customer service representative, or CSR as you guys call it, we call them an office girl or or a personal assistant, or I don't know exactly what the terms are. But anyway, going back to that, I remember her coming to me and going, we really should get into this ADAS stuff, Tim. And I'm like, look, we're not ADAS calibrators. We're not, we're not into that stuff. We'd leave that stuff to the dealers. That was in the real early days of it. And then around sort of 2019, 2020, we just started to see so much more of that work starting to come through. So we started looking to doing ADAS, and so right, let's make the jump. We'll do ADAS. We'll start doing our own camera systems and camera calibrations. So and again, this was probably something that made it a lot easier being part of a group too, because there were so many options, and like, what do I do? What do I buy? Who do I buy it from? And then a certain email come out from head office one day, and had 3 different systems listed with the 3 different prices from who they were from, and it sort of made it a lot simpler. And it's like, right, I've got 1 bit of paper here. I can look at that and make a decision. So I made a decision, and we had to invest $35,000 at the time to buy this first set of ADAS equipment. It was a Heller at the time. It was the one that we ended up choosing, and wasn't the best choice, but I'll get back to that. And I didn't have the 35 grand to buy the equipment. I had to finance it at the time, which we did, and we started off, doing a few calibrations a week, and then it's just built and built. And I guess what really came out of it, the profit that came out of it, was that previous to that we were sort of relying on dealers are telling us we've got to use genuine. If we put an aftermarket in and we send it to the dealer for genuine, they might say calibration didn't work, you need to put a genuine in. So we were able to start playing around with using aftermarket glass, and so instead of using that $2,000 piece of glass, we were using the $200 piece of glass, and then all of a sudden there was a huge room for markup in between, and we started to get to know, we can trust this aftermarket stuff. We can do it. So that was.
Sorry, 1 second. Let me stop right there. Put a pin in what you're saying. Who is your aftermarket? Is it Fuyao, XYG, Nielsen and Moeller, Benson? Who is the aftermarket? What does the aftermarket look like in Australia? I guess is what.
Australia. So currently we have FY dot 359, I believe it is, which is different to what you get in America. Mm-hmm. It's a Chinese product rather than a American-made product, because I see a lot of stuff on the Facebook pages about the American. I think is it 359 or 459?
It should be 459 is Fuyao. Yeah, right there, and then 1038 is Fuyao in America.
Yeah. We find that a really good product. It's got its issues from time to time. We have XYG through a couple other different suppliers. We've really only got 2 mainstream suppliers, and one big one, which is National Autoglass Supplies, a secondary, which is part of Safelite, O'Brien Glass, who use National Autoglass Supplies, FYG, O'Brien Glass / Safelite, XYG. Sorry, FY and then XYG. I think you followed me.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, there's only a couple of small suppliers, so we don't have a lot of choice.
But you're seeing success.
Benson's not a supplier in Australia. Nielsen Moller were way back, but not anymore. And I believe the Australian fellas opened up a distribution in America there now.
Yep. That's why I knew them, was because they've opened up a place in America here, so they don't even supply in Australia anymore. That's interesting. So you're seeing good success out of FY and XY, G?
I'm not a big fan of the XYG, but the FY, no, it's a good product. We get good fitting glasses. We get good accessories on them.
Bracketry's always lined up.
Bracketry's, generally 99% of the times all lined up. We get good pricing. We get good deliveries. Good delivery service. The guys that run that. Well, a lot of people complain about it and want to jump up and down all the time and say this is not good enough. This is not good enough. And my point of view is that they're really providing a really good service, and they keep their pricing really sharp by their efficiencies.
See, we've got Shishajam, we've got Vitero, we've got XY, FY, obviously Nielsen Muller, Benson, Carlex. I know I'm going to miss quite a few that we have here. We have, I'm sorry, it's Crimenex, not Carmax or Carlex. Oh my goodness, there's quite a few here. We have a wide array of APT, AT. There's quite like Autolight and like these new ones that are coming out. So like the fact you only have two, it's like it's either good or it's bad. You know, like you don't have many. Like we can be like, hey, that was a dot 459. Try to get me a dot 15 Pilkington. You know what I mean? Try to get me a dot. You know what I mean? Because we know that that's gonna work. So that's interesting. You only really have two that you have in the aftermarket you could choose from. It makes it easier. It's like
because if you get through those two and they don't work, well, you've got genuine. You know, there's only three.
Yeah, right. Like, these two didn't work, so we could actually be replacing it 4 or 5 times with aftermarket, depending if the insurance company says you have to try aftermarket before you go with OE. Then so basically, you have a more streamlined system than we have. That's for sure. So it's just interesting. I thought you'd have. Yeah. That's weird. I thought you would have the same as us. Like, I don't know why I thought that, but I did. I was like, oh yeah, they've got all of those, just like we got. Yeah, Shishajang got, all these things. But I guess not. I guess we're. And
it does make it easier in a lot of ways too, because we basically use the FY glass 95% of the time, so we get to know how it fits. So every time you do that same particular model, you know which mold you want to use, because it's not smaller than the original, bigger than the original, and so it does make it a lot easier from that perspective to know exactly what you're expecting as you come into a job as far as fitment wise, because you fitted that glass from the same manufacturer 20 times before.
Yeah,
change manufacturer, and something could be completely different. Glass is smaller, curves different.
Yeah, so you're having about a 95% success rate with calibrations. And you're right. We see.
No, we're probably more like 99, 100% with calibrations. Wouldn't be far off 100, truthfully.
Okay, with the aftermarket glass. Okay, so we're here in America, the United States. And I'm not sure what they have in Canada wise or Mexico and South America, what their percentage rates here. But in the United States, with aftermarket glass, you're in the 85 to 90%, and then we have a lot of people that are complaining about it. So what is it that you're seeing? Is it because your setup is so good, or is it strictly because, that's what's killing us over here is setups, and then what, and because we're obviously getting the same 459. If we're getting 459, you're getting 459. It's not, they're not sending you the good stuff.
459 too, do you?
Yeah, we get 459 as well. Okay. We have a lot of the 1038, but that plant's been shut down for a while now, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I know they had some issues, and that I believe that plant's been shut down for a while. And we saw 459 before the 1038 opened, and then we're seeing 459 now start coming back into the rotation more and more. And And of the two, I'm picking 459 for sure.
Yeah.
But like, so are you seeing, is it your setup that's making you so successful, or is it the fact that you're just getting really good glass and we're not?
It could be a little bit of both, but it also could be it's in the state that we're in Australia, New South Wales. It's actually been legislated that calibrations can only be performed by a qualified mechanic or auto electrician. So windscreen fitters, as such, aren't technically allowed to perform a calibration.
Oh.
So that's brought its challenges. I've had to employ qualified mechanics to perform the calibrations, but these qualified mechanics are very, very clever fellows. And so they have got that mindset and that problem solving skill set to be able to work through the issues.
Okay, let's talk about that problem solving skill set. I'm glad you brought that up. That I think that's what separates a technician from an installer when it comes to doing the the windshields, or also doing the calibrations. You have a problem solving mindset. So my suggestion for anybody who's getting into ADAS is learn the troubleshooting part of it. Don't just be like, oh, it failed, and send it to the dealer. Truly dive in and learn. There's materials out there to learn it and get yourself the training. But you're right, these qualified mechanics, if they go to a proper university for mechanics, they learn the problem solving. And I think that's what go to school is, as opposed to learning on the job, is the problem solving. I really do believe that's huge. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people just think, well, I've tried it every way, and then you send it out. Well, there are ways to diagnose through the tablets, through figuring things out, through problem solving. So
yeah, it's a good having more than one set of diagnostic equipment as well, and also having remote tech support.
The remote tech support is good. The more than one diagnostic tool, because are you running Autel now?
We do probably 80% through Autel. We also using Launch and a little bit of Texa.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you do need a couple different tablets, because the way the aftermarket works is, they got to buy the licensing, they got to do and sometimes one tablet will get past a firewall that another tablet won't. A tablet will allow you to get into the camera and allow you to learn mode the camera, but it won't let you actually go in and diagnose the camera through live data, through scopes, through different, avenues. So that's why you need the other tablet to hook in, because it can get past that next gateway to allow you to tap into the camera, to allow you to tap into the CAN bus, to allow you to tap into the module that actually controls the lane watch camera and separates it from the, what is that called? The intelligent module that controls all of the connecting, modules for the cameras for the ADAS systems, the radars. And so, yes, some tablets you can only go so far with the diagnostic process. So, did you buy all those tablets, or were you, did your employee come to you and say, okay, I need this new tablet. This tablet will do this.
Or I'm my employer.
No, your employee. Your employee.
Okay, yeah.
No, not your employer. You're the employer. Your employee.
So no, actually, a lot of it was from my own research. So make sure I'm very connected with the equipment suppliers and with keeping up with the new equipment that's coming out, etc. So I've got a lot of associations with that in that area. It was more my instigation that brought the extra technology on board. As I mentioned, we started with Hella. We found that hardware was pretty good. The software was rubbish. We soon moved on into Autel, but we're still able to use our Hella hardware, which we don't use a great deal anymore. Moving on to that next part of the journey. So, that original $35,000 loan that I took to buy the first set of equipment that kicked me off, we've morphed into 5 sets of equipment now. We've got maybe 10 scan tools from that original investment, and I've not had to borrow money again to buy from it. I've reinvested the profits that I've made out of the ADAS business to keep improving the equipment that we have. And I guess a lot of that was to do with, we started with camera obviously for our windscreens, then we saw the opportunity to get into the collision centres and start to do that full service of ADAS and do radar and ABM, etc.
You do it all.
Yeah, we do it all. Yeah, so it was a really good opportunity. We're the first people in the area to offer that to the collision repair centres, and at the time they only had the dealers to send vehicles to, and obviously that was a really inconvenience because they get to the end of the repair and say, I'm ready for calibration, dealer, and they say, like, see you in 2 weeks and leave it with us for a week and do it like. So we're able to go in there and say, look, we'll be here tomorrow, we'll be here within 2 days, we'll come and calibrate the radars for you, and it was a little bit slow to start with, but it's just grown so quickly. Over the last 5 years, it just basically kept doubling every year. And I like it because I like the ADAS business because it's given me, firstly, because it's just given me something else to...
new challenge.
Yeah, new challenge, something else to understand, and I make sure I understand it and I can do it to a degree, but, again, I employ people that can take it to the next level, that can do it better than I can. I provide the support, I make sure I understand it, I provide whatever equipment you want, I buy you whatever equipment you want. I give them suggestions on, I think we should buy this equipment, and they look at it and go, yeah, I think you're right. So we buy it. I love the ADAS business for the point of view that while it's a complex business, what they do, it's actually very, very simple in so many ways, especially from an admin point of view where there's no parts, there's no quoting. It's like, somebody rings you up for a windscreen, you've got to work out which of 6 or 8 different windscreens it is, then give them a quote, then decide whether you need to get it on site and get 2 fitters there, and is it raining, to do them undercover, all the things that come along with that. You want genuine, you want aftermarket, to have what pricing structure for the lease company, for the private customer, for the panel shop, for the insurance company. So many things to pull a job together. Whereas the ADAS stuff in the panel shops is like, well, we've had the front bar off the Camry and we've reused the original module. Can you come and calibrate it? It's like, yep, we'll be there this afternoon. And it's like, you write an invoice with one line, ADAS calibration.
Yeah, just one line, just ADAS.
Yeah, off you go. So so I really, I like the ADAS business that way. But one of the things I didn't envisage when I went into ADAS in the collision repair centres was how much other diagnostic or technical support they required or would ask us for outside of ADAS calibration. And again, this has been one of the real benefits of hiring really smart diagnostic technicians, qualified mechanics to do the work, because they can go in there and they get that's stuff they do every day. I see their reports and I'm like, how did you figure that out? You blow me away, like, really? Resetting steering angle sensors and solving airbag faults, and this light's come on because we replaced the left-hand rear tail light, and fixing, repairing wiring. Today they pulled they had a steering rack replaced in a vehicle that they couldn't reset the calibration on, ended up redoing some of the work that the mechanic had done when he'd replaced the steering rack to get it to work. And so, that stuff outside the actual just ADAS calibration's been really good. But it's also been, I think, really important for the guys that are working for me too, because I think you can't employ guys this smart just to calibrate windscreen cameras. They'd be bored. They'd be bored in 10 minutes. So doing radar and getting all these other things thrown at them every day from the panel shops, it just keeps their mind ticking. And these guys just want to solve problems, and that's what they do. And so that's what keeps it interesting for them.
Yeah, watching a great diagnostic tech work, because I'm also part of it's called Scanner Danner. It's on YouTube, and he also offers a class that you can go through and learn how to use the diagnostic tools, what he teaches, and how to troubleshoot and get to, pinpointing instead of just throwing parts at something. And when you get a good diagnostic tech, it blows your mind. And it's like,
Oh,
oh my
yeah.
God, I never would have thought that was the problem.
Yeah.
No, yeah, well, I did this and I watched this and I had this oleoscope and I had this and and you're just sitting there going, cool, bro.
Yeah.
I can calibrate your camera and your radar for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's really cool, right? Yeah, yeah, I'm so proud of these guys. And in particular, you ring them and say, "We've got this customer's rung up with this problem," and you can just see their mind start ticking over. And it's like, right. And, and some of them, one in particular, he just won't leave a problem. He'll sit there and spend 4 or 6 hours on a job and won't leave it till he solves it. Frustrating. It's looking perspective. You've got other clients waiting for him, but he just will not give up.
He won't give up. He won't give up. He's got that. He
gets there every time. If he doesn't get there, he goes home and he researches it and he goes back the next day and then he fixes it.
Well, the research part of it, if I can pass on any kind of tidbit to troubleshooting ADAS for people in the United States, around the world, is first off, learn how to use your scanner. Learn how to use your scanner. That's the most important tool you have in your hand when it comes to this and diagnosing problems. Learn all the little functions of it, but don't be afraid to research. Don't just throw your hands up. Do your research. We have this wonderful thing called the internet that you can dive in. You can find TSPs. You can find all kinds of things. Learn to dig, and learn how to use that tool. Those scanners are impressive. They're not just for reading codes.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, there's so much into it. Yeah, and a lot of it's a little above my head. But yeah.
Well, yeah. It's going to get there real quick for a lot of us if we're not staying in the practice of using one every day. It comes, you can learn the basics and know how to guide somebody a little bit. But if you're not, and just like with installations, if you're not doing it every day, your skill set drops a little bit. Yeah. So if you're, at least get that scanner in your hand, at least get that bat in your hand, something, daily, even if you're just watching somebody do it or whatever. But yeah, you got to keep your skill set sharp because it won't be long and I'll be outpaced. To be completely honest with you, I have to keep researching things and learning different things to try to keep my skill set sharp. But where I'm not installing every day anymore, for me, I have to make sure that I'm trying to position myself with research that I don't fall off, because it won't be long and I'll be outpaced and I'll be like, okay, well, now I got to dive into this, which is good because it keeps my brain sharp, it keeps me focusing.
I've always taken a lot of pride in the fact that if I can bring someone in the business and train them up to do the job better than me, that's my job done.
Absolutely.
That's, then we're talking about Autoglass here. I consider myself a pretty reasonable auto glazier, but I've been able to bring, guys in the business and make them better auto glaziers than I am. And that's a big win in my book.
Absolutely. If I can change the industry to where every technician that walks through the door or walks into a job is better than what I am, I've done my service to the industry, because that's the whole goal. You're right. I want the people that I teach, the people that I talk to, the people I interact with, I want them to learn enough from me what I can provide to them and then outpace me. Go and be better. I want you to be better. Because that'll be success in my life. If I can make the industry better, and that's one technician at a time, is getting them to the level to where they understand professionalism is important, and that customer safety is important. And the more serious they take their job and the more they invest in their skill set, I'm happy to be like, yeah, so what? Everybody's better than me. Rock on. That's where I want to be. You know what I mean? I want to be left behind. I want to try to keep up, but I want to be left behind because that means I've done my job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. We're at 48 minutes. So we've got about 10 minutes. Yeah, I know, right? We got about 10 minutes left. So let's go ahead and dive into what a normal day for Tim looks like as the owner of an independent glass shop.
Okay, so a normal day for me, up until maybe 12 months, last 12 months to 24 months, I was, part on the tools, part in the office, had some good admin staff, was still doing it on tools, and that's where I sort of like to be, doing a little bit of both, making sure I can do a bit of everything. I never realised never envisaged that the challenge in business was going to be keeping skilled guys on the tools. The challenge in the last 4 or 5 years has been the admin end of the business, and keeping training up customer service representatives and the people who answer the phones and people who are doing the paperwork and all those things in the background. Yeah. So, well, I mentioned before, I had a really good CSR for over 10 years up until this last big, huge, massive growth period over the last 5. We've been through a lot of CSRs, and some have been good, some have been bad. Got 2 great new girls on at the moment that have only been with us a few months, but it's still a big learning curve for those guys. They've never done the work. They've never fitted a windscreen. They've never done an ADAS calibration, but they've got to, you've got to train them with some understanding of where they've got to be. So my role at the moment, my typical day at the moment is never been an early starter. It's up out of bed at 6:30, 7 o'clock and off to work, and drive at work at 8 o'clock. One of the boys is there to already open up the shop, and he's already got all the cars out and a couple of cars in, and CSR's there, and sit down and banging them a day. And I'm basically supporting my ADAS guys, mentoring my Autoglass guys, and I'm just every minute's just ding, 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 ring, ring, ring. I'm out in the workshop helping me lift a windscreen in, giving some advice, phones ringing, phones dinging, in the customer service representatives ask me questions. I'm on the phone to the other branch going, you haven't booked this job right. You've done, you need to have a look at the order of your jobs tomorrow, and I think we can do them in a better order. And so yeah, it's just from 8 through to 5 o'clock is just it's just full on, absolutely full on.
See, I think that's the spot that's lost on a lot of technicians, a lot of CSRs, a lot of people who are coming into the business. They think that the owner, because, I thought this at one point too, the owner is just, has delegated everything to the point to where all they got to do is come in, sit at their desk, go play golf if they want. You go take 2-hour lunches, go do, whatever, show up whenever they want. And it's
for some owners, it might be, not for this owner.
I don't know. I don't know that I've ever met an owner that so far that I've talked to in this industry that isn't nose to the grindstone. I really haven't. I really haven't met an owner in the Autoglass industry that isn't nose to the grindstone, isn't, working, overtime, you know what I mean? Basically, and have a hand in every spot of the shop. That's the part that I think is lost on a lot of technicians, is like the amount of work goes into ownership to make sure everybody's employed. So thank you for taking on that challenge, because if it wasn't for guys like you, guys like me wouldn't have had this great career path, because I'm not an owner. So for me, owners like you who took the risk, who buckled down, who put their nose to the grindstone, learned everything they can to keep, people like me employed. Thank you for that. People don't realize how hard it is. Like I've peeked behind the curtain now that I'm in this position of running the show and talking to owners all the time. And it's a different mindset. So hats off, my bald head. Hats off to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. Yeah, and did I mention then I come home at 5 o'clock, I might go to yoga or Pilates on the way home. And then for an hour, I come home, have some dinner, and I'm back at the computer again, and I'm organising the next day's jobs, or I'm writing invoices or other stuff. But yeah, I do it because I love it, and it's been very successful for me. It's been a very, very successful journey.
Well, we're at the 55-minute mark, so don't hang up right away, because once I hit stop, it's got to upload, and then we can hang up. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for every time I reach out to you, you communicate right away. I appreciate you staying up so late to do this, because although it's 8 o'clock here in the morning, it's 10 o'clock there.
10:15 here. That's all.
Quarter past 10 p.m. the following day. So, I mean, it's so thank you so much for staying up and doing this. My audience appreciates it. I appreciate it. So do you have any parting words for our listeners?
Keep grinding, keep chipping away, keep having a crack.
All right. I love it. All right. Hang on one second. Thank you for watching Put 'em on a Glass podcast. So the best thing you can do if you would like to support the show is do the normals, like, subscribe, bell notifications, leave comments, do everything to try to promote the show. The main thing you can do is share the show, and also believe in yourself, support yourself, and just create a professional atmosphere to change this industry into a respectable career that we all know it can be. So with that, thank you, and I sure do appreciate you listening.